Welcome to the Emissary podcast. This is an update to the Graham Hancock, Rupert Sheldrake story. Just been trying to meditate, been thinking about it again. Daniel Pinchbeck posted something today, or yesterday, seeing as it's 1 a.m. now on the East Coast, but on 20th of March, which I tend to agree with what he's saying. I've come to the issue through Sheldrake more than I have of Hancock, and basically Pinchbeck's critique is that Hancock may use a more hyperbolic and fantastical language than Sheldrake, and it's been my experience with the situation as well. Um, Hancock seems to be the more outspoken critic of the TED thing, and Pinchbeck doesn't really mention this, and he, I guess, doesn't really worry about the censorship, and I've been thinking about the censorship issue as well, because that's basically Ted's defense is that we're not censoring this, and I tend to have to agree, and maybe Pinchbeck does say that actually, and I mean, after thinking about it, I do tend to agree. I mean, they're not going to post everything on their page, and this is something that is now making more sense to me than I guess it did. I'm going to let this catch up. Okay. Is sort of more about them posting it and then retracting it. Just smacks of, it makes me sad, it upsets people, and it's not directly censorship, yes, but in a way it's sort of a semantical argument, which kind of gets back to my first point and also what Pinchbeck is saying, and I guess part of, why is Sheldrake not pushing as hard against Ted, and why is Hancock pushing so hard? Semantics and style, Um, I'm, a supporter of Hancock and Sheldrake because, and so many other people. I mean, it's like I don't see these two people as being in some space of their own. I feel like they're in company with many people, and I guess the thing that was frustrating is that Ted seems to want to dissociate from this notion of what seems to me to be sort of like a quantum mechanics idea, or like the whole wavicles thing. I don't know exactly what to call it right now, but light is a wave or a particle, and non-locality and things like that. These ideas that what you look for you will find, and just other. It's essentially the notion that our consciousness moves from our body, and it has a field. That's what Sheldrake talks about, morphogenic fields. It's, to me, this makes sense, and the thing that's frustrating is that Ted is saying, we don't want to endorse this kind of idea, and that's their prerogative, but it's sort of disappointing because it just seems to be obvious to a certain extent. And so, dispositions, I'm going to try to wrap this up, and I'm just sort of thinking about technology now, staring into the camera, and, the flesh is silly. It's the consciousness that matters, and through the consciousness, that's how we make a more habitable place for the flesh. And while I have you on the line, I'll just tell you my idea about, well, not my ideas, it just travels through, and I feel the reason my consciousness tells me to is trying to meditate, felt the strong feeling to continue to try to communicate. It could be a black hole, but it doesn't really matter. What matters is following the heart, following what makes sense, trusting the flow and the connectivity. And so the idea that flows through one of them is, it's just like Buckminster Fuller said, it's, you pay people to stay home. We need, agriculture is important. We should be growing our own crops, but we need to be thinking about the community and sustainability rather than marketplace and economics as such, and support people. There aren't enough jobs to go around, and if we want to be sustainable, it's not through niches. It's through cooperation, and in order to do cooperation effectively, it has to be a level playing field, which essentially means sometimes people have to get paid for staying home. It's just what it is, and we don't need to make that welfare. We should just make it part of society. And I don't know, that's not a vision. I haven't fully realized it yet. It needs to be helped. But I'm going to sign off for now. Thanks for checking out Emissary Podcast. You can look it up on iTunes. We have different format of interviews, talk a little bit more about consciousness and drugs, and I tend to agree with Hancock about that. Perhaps Ted also doesn't really like this relationship with drugs. I have to admit that with Hancock and the notion of expansion of consciousness is expansion of intelligence, and I mean it can go on and on and on. Peace is what we believe in. I believe that consciousness does extend beyond the vessel. I believe that a change in mentality can create actual change. This is what it's about. This is what wisdom tells us through millennia, and I'd be alive that we can do it. And it is about syntax. It's about the way we talk. It is about the presentation. And we live in a flash. It's a strange culture. And I mean, I need help. Please help. That's why I'm here, putting the word out there. So please get involved. Any community we can build is beautiful. I would like to try to turn you on to Psychedelic Salon podcast. That is how the Emissary podcast was born. And do check out Daniel Pinchbeck, and I mean, check out Ted. They've got beautiful stuff. Check out Rushkoff. Check out Freakonomics, Stephen Levitt. And for goodness sakes, read poetry. Read Rumi. You know these things. And most importantly, share, spread the word when you can, and live affirmatively. Be for things that you love and be alive in. And also please check out On Being, and you can find so much of this stuff on the feed here in the playlists, but also on the Facebook page. Check it out, Emissary Podcast, EM equals PC on Facebook, and at emissarypodcast.blogspot.com. Definitely great to connect, and thanks again for tuning in. Peace.